Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Rachel from Evelyn and Peter, and today I have a crochet cardigan pattern for you guys. It is this one that I'm wearing, so I'm going to stand up and give you guys a little bit of a better look. Super cute. It's very easy to do, and then these stripes are different stitches to kind of give it more, be more interesting to make and not just be the same stitch throughout. So you'll be doing a few different stitches, and you might not have seen them before, but I will show you how to do them in this video, so don't be intimidated by them. You're going to need worsted weight yarn for this design. I used Line Brand's Color Theory yarn, and I will have all of the exact yardage and all of the colors and everything that I used in my blog. So if you want to head to my blog, I'll have that linked in the description. And I will have the names of the colors, all the yardage for all of the sizes, which are between sizes extra small through 5X. And I'll just have all the information that you need to know there, your gauge and everything like that. So make sure you head to my blog post and follow along with that as you watch the video tutorial, or you can just follow along with the written pattern if you don't need the video tutorial. So I have lots of different options, and then this is also available as a kit. So I always like to recommend the kit if you know you want to make this cardigan using the yarn that I used. The kit is on Line Brand, and you can pick the different colors that you want. So if you want to switch out like one of the colors that I use and switch for something different, you can do that in the kit. And then they also throw in a free copy of the pattern, of my pattern. So a PDF digital download to my pattern that is included in the kit for free. So you're just paying for the yarn, and then they always have really good yarn sales. So if you are on my newsletter, which you can sign up on my blog, I always send out emails about sales on my kits and stuff like that, so you can get a good deal on it. They frequently have 35% off deals, so I like to recommend that as well. It's still a really good deal too, even if there is no sale, because you get the pattern for free, so you're just paying for the yarn. But yeah, I'll have that linked as well. And then I have the printable pattern is on Etsy and on Ravelry. If you want to just head over to Ravelry, you can save it to your queue. And even when you guys go and just interact with my listings by liking them or posting them to Pinterest, anything like that is a huge support for my business. So I always appreciate it so much, even if you guys don't plan on buying the pattern. If you just go check out my blog post or click through on Ravelry and like the pattern, it's super helpful. And I thank you guys so much for doing that. Let's see, so this pattern is worked in separate panels from the bottom up with the different stitches and then the color changing. And so if you want to have less ends to weave in, I don't do it in the video just because I don't do it while I am in the designing process. But if you want less ends to weave in, you can crochet directly over the tails of yarn as you go into your next stitch or into the next row. And then you can also, if you have tails of yarns on this end, on the front panels, there is a trim here that you can crochet directly over those as well. So that gives you less ends to weave in when you're making the pattern. This also has pockets. So if you do not want to do the pockets, you can see the pocket here, and it's worked on the inside of the cardigan. You'll sew the pocket piece to the inside. If you want to skip that part, you can just skip the chain length that we have here. You'll see when I do it in the pattern on the front panel, you can just skip that and work stitches instead. And I'm pretty sure I specify in the video when to do that if you don't want pockets. So you can skip over that if you don't want the pockets. And yeah, it's pretty straightforward pattern. There's a little bit of shaping on the sleeves to give us this cute little balloon sleeve look. And yeah, I hope you guys like it, and if you have any questions, you can leave them in the comments. I do not guarantee here on YouTube that I will answer your pattern questions in the comments here, just because sometimes I miss them, but maybe if someone else sees it, they can answer it for you. And if you really want my help specifically, I always ask for you to email at EvelynAndPeter@gmail.com. You'll get through to me that way a lot easier than on a random YouTube comment. So I hope you guys enjoyed the pattern, and I will see you guys in the next video. So to make your cardigan, you're going to need worsted weight yarn. I'm using Line Brand's Color Theory. You're going to need it in 3 separate colors, and I have all of the exact yardage and on colors that I use listed on my blog, so make sure you go check that out so you have the correct amount for your size. You're also going to need a 5.5mm hook, a pair of scissors, a needle to weave in your ends, measuring tape, and a couple of stitch markers. So this cardigan is made by working a back panel, 2 front panels, and 2 sleeves, and all of them start out the same way. So I'm going to show you on just one panel how you make the basic rows and stitches and the ribbing, and just go over it one time so that you can go back and rewatch it for all the other panels, because they are all exactly the same. They just start off with a different amount of rows. So here's my back panel here. And all of them begin with this ribbing that you work your single crochet in the back loop only, and then we will continue on to the main body of the panel and working these rows here. And all of the panels are the same. The sleeves are slightly different, and the front panels we do make a pocket hole, but essentially it's all the same. So I will show you guys how to do that, and I will be working a front panel up to show you how to create them. So you can begin by creating a slip knot, and then for this part you can either start off with a starting chain or a foundation single crochet. I like to do foundation single crochet, so you just work 2 chains, and then in the first chain that you made, that's where we are going to be working our stitches. So in that back bump, insert your hook, and then just yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through the first loop only, and then yarn over and pull through 2, and that is 1 foundation single crochet. Again, in the bottom of that stitch you just made, insert your hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 1, yarn over, pull through 2, and just continue to do this until you have a total of 10 foundation single crochets. If you need a slower video, I have that on my page as well. And if you don't want to do the foundation single crochets, you can just chain 11 and then work 1 single crochet into the second chain from the hook and all the way back down for a total of 10 single crochet stitches. So as long as you have 10 single crochet stitches, and that is the same for all of the sizes. So go ahead and do that. So once you have your 10 single crochet, now we are going to continue on with the ribbing. So you can go ahead and chain 1 and then just turn your work. And for the second row, you're going to make 1 single crochet into each of the stitches, but you're going to be doing it in the back loop only. So the loop that is furthest away from us is where you'll be putting your hook. So normally in a regular stitch, you would put it under both like this, but for the ribbing portion, we're going to put it in the back loop. So again, just stick your hook under that 1 loop, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, and that is 1 single crochet, and you're going to do it all the way across the row for a total of 10 single crochet, working in the back loop only. Okay, so that completes row 2, and you'll be repeating this row from here on out for the ribbing. So chain 1 and turn your work, and then again in that very first stitch, work a single crochet in the back loop only, and then just do this all the way across the row for 10 single crochet in the back loop only. So you're just repeating row 2 over and over again until you have the correct amount of rows for your size. I'm working the front panel in the size small in this part, so I'm going to do it for a total of 32 rows, but make sure you check for your size so you do the correct amount. Okay, so now we have our ribbing complete. This is one of my front panels, and the back panel will obviously be a lot longer than this one. So just double check your row counts for whatever panel you're doing. And then after this, we're going to start row 1 of the main body of the front panel. So to do that, you're just going to rotate your work slightly, and we're going to work our stitches into the ends of the rows that we just did. So that last row that we just finished, just work 1 single crochet into it, and then into the end of the next row, work 1 single crochet, and then again into the following row, work 1 single crochet, and you're just going to do this all the way across the row. So I have a total of 32 rows, so that means I'm going to work a total of 32 single crochet stitches, just working 1 in each of the rows. And you'll do the same for the back panel and for the other front panel as well. So just continue all the way across. Okay, and then when we get to the end of the row, we're going to be changing colors here. So I'm going to show you to do that. You need to bring in color B, and I'm just on my last single crochet of the row, and instead of yarning over and pulling through with color A, we're going to bring in color B and just place it over the hook, and then do that last pull through with our new color. So place color B and then just pull through. You can pull the tails slightly down a little bit just to keep it secure and tug it down. And now our working yarn is color B. So we're going to be using this color to start row 2. So for row 2, you're going to chain 2 and turn your work. And now the chain 2 does not count as a stitch. So we're still going to be working our first double crochet into the first stitch for this row. And then I also wanted to point out that it's a good idea to take your tails and tie them into a knot to keep them in place. I like to just do a little knot each time I change colors, and then when you are joining your panels and working the trim around the opening of the cardigan, you can crochet directly over the tails that you have in a knot. You can do that directly over them when we do the trim portion. So anyways, to start off this row, yarn over, insert your hook into the very first stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, and then yarn over, pull through 2. That is 1 double crochet. And then do the same thing in the next stitch, just work a double crochet into it and all the way across. So we're just working 1 double crochet into each stitch all the way across the row. Okay, and then when you get to the end of the row, you still have the same stitch count as you did in the previous row. So our stitch count is not going to change, just pointing that out. Make sure you always have the same amount of stitches. And then you can turn your work and chain 2. Again, this chain 2 does not count as a stitch, so we're still going to work 1 double crochet into this first stitch. And then this portion will look slightly different. So we're actually going to be working our stitches in between the double crochets. So we're going to be working X stitches, and we're going to be working the double crochets into the spaces between the double crochets from the row below instead of the double crochet, the tops of the stitches. So the only stitches in this row that you're working into the top of a stitch is the first and last stitch of the row, and we will be working the X stitches in between. And you can find the correct space by, normally if we would say skip 1 stitch, work a double crochet into the following, you just look to the space directly to the left of that stitch. So we're going to skip the first stitch and the first space, and in that second stitch, find the space directly to the left of it and just work your double crochet into it. So it's kind of like skipping over stitches, but we're working into the space. And now you're going to go back to the space that you just skipped over. So it's just to the left of this double crochet that we skipped over, and just work a double crochet into it. So you're just going back to the one you skipped over and working 1 double crochet to form our X stitch. And we're going to do this all the way across the row. So again, you're going to skip over the next stitch and space, and then the following stitch as well, because again, we're working into the space directly to the left of it. So skip the next double crochet in space, and then in that next space, work a double crochet. So basically you're just skipping over a space and then going back and working a double crochet into the space that you just skipped. So if you're familiar with the X stitch, it's exactly like that, except you're just working into the space to the left of the stitch instead of the top of the stitch. So go ahead and just do this all the way across the row. So this is what your work will look like. Little X's all the way across gives a nice texture working into the spaces instead of into the top of the stitch. So once you get to the end of the row, you still have one double crochet remaining. So we can't forget to work our last double crochet into the top of that stitch. So we have our last X stitch filling up that final 2 spaces, and then in the top of that very last double crochet, just work a regular double crochet into it, and that completes that row. And again, your stitch count is the same. And then after that, you can just go ahead and chain 2 and turn your work. And for this row, this is row 4, you're going to again be working 1 double crochet into the top of the first stitch. So in that very first stitch, just yarn over, insert your hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And now we are going to just be working regular double crochets, but we're still going to be doing them into the spaces. So in between that first X that we made, so right in between the 2 legs of the double crochet, you work a double crochet, and then in between the X's all the way across. So make sure you don't skip the space between the 2 double crochet that create the X. So that's the very first spot. You can see here, I'll put my hook through the back so you can get a better view. So in between that first space, work a double crochet, and then work a double crochet into the following space, a double crochet into the next space, and you just do it all the way across the row. So 1 double crochet into the first stitch, and then 1 double crochet into each space all the way across, and then you will finish with a double crochet into the top of the last stitch. Okay, so I'm coming up to the end of the row here. We've worked a double crochet into each space, and now we can't forget that last stitch. Make sure you work your final double crochet into it. And then we're not going to do our final yarn over and pull through with color B. Now we're going to bring in color C. So just take your next color, place it over your hook, and do that last pull through with your new color. So now we'll just drop that other yarn, and you can cut it as well if you want to. So you're just gonna cut the yarn and tie those 2 tails into a knot. And now we will be starting the next row. So for this row, it's row 5. You're going to start off with a chain 2 and turn your work. So for this row, we're going to start off with a double crochet. So just yarn over, insert your hook into that very first stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. So just a regular double crochet. And then into the following stitch, we're going to work a slip stitch. So insert your hook and then yarn over, pull the loop through the stitch and through the loop on your hook. Then in the third stitch, work another double crochet, and then in the one after that, work a slip stitch. And we're just going to repeat this all the way across the row, working 1 double crochet into 1 stitch, and then a slip stitch into the following. So just repeat this all the way across until the end of the row. Okay, and then when you get to the end of the row, you're going to be finishing with a slip stitch here. So whenever we do this row, you always start with a double crochet and end with a slip stitch. And make sure you're not pulling your slip stitches too tightly. They're not meant to be super snug. So then you can start off the row the same exact way, chain 2, work a double crochet into that first slip stitch, and then a slip stitch into the top of the double crochet. Then a double crochet into the top of the slip stitch, and these might be a little tight. It's just normal for the slip stitches to tighten on their own. So when you're working them, don't tug any harder than what you normally would, because it's already going to be pretty snug. So again, for this row, just double crochet, slip stitch across. When you get to the end, you're just going to repeat it. So turn your work, chain 2, and work your double crochet, slip stitch across as well. So go ahead and work down and back, and I will meet you when you are done. Okay, so now we are finished with row 7. So we've done 3 rows total of the double crochet slip stitch. Now we have to change colors again. So to change colors during this slip stitch, just insert your hook into the last stitch, and instead of pulling through with that yarn, you're going to place color A and do your pull through with color A. It might feel a little weird to change colors on a slip stitch like that. So just do that pull through and then chain 1 and turn your work. And now we are beginning row 8. So for row 8, we're just working half double crochet stitches across. So in that very first stitch, which is the slip stitch, work a half double. So make sure you don't accidentally skip over it. It's that little stitch right there. So yarn over, insert your hook into that very first stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop, and then yarn over and pull through all 3, and that is 1 half double crochet. And you're just going to work this all the way across. So into the double crochet, work a half double, and then again into the slip stitch. So just 1 half double crochet into each stitch across the row. When you get to the end of the row, just chain 1 and turn your work. And now you're just going to be doing the same exact thing, working 1 half double crochet stitch into each stitch across the row. So we had just completed row 8 and now we are on row 9, and you're going to be doing this until you reach row 12. So a total of 5 rows of half double crochet. So we're on our second row of it right now, and you have 3 more to go after this. So just work your stitches across, chain 1 and turn, and just repeat that. Okay, and then when you get to the end of row 12, we're going to drop our current color and bring in color C. So just place it over your hook and pull through. And now we're going to do row 13, which is just a repeat of row 5. So for row 5, that was our double crochet slip stitch stitches that we alternated across the row. And it's really easy to keep track of that. The double crochet slip stitches are always color C. So whenever you bring in color C, you know that that is the stitch that we will be doing. So chain 2, work a double crochet into the first stitch, a slip stitch into the next, and just repeat that all the way across the row. So you're going to do this for a total of 2 rows. So we're going to work our way down and then chain 2, turn, and work our way back doing the same stitch. Okay, so now we're going to switch back to color B. So just go ahead and bring in color B, place it on your hook, and do that last pull through of the slip stitch with color B. And now we are on row 15, and we are just repeating row 2. So you can go ahead and chain 2 and turn your work. And then you're just going to work 1 double crochet into each stitch across the row. So in every slip stitch and in every double crochet, just work a double crochet all the way across. And for row 16, you're just going to chain 2 and turn your work. And now we are doing more regular double crochets, but we're working them into the spaces. So just like before, work your first double crochet into the top of the first stitch. And then now we're going to be working them into the spaces. Make sure you don't accidentally put it in that very first space, since we already worked the double crochet into the top of the stitch, but into the following space, you'll work a double crochet, as well as every single space all the way across the row. And then when you get to the very end of the row, you'll just work your final double crochet into the top of the last stitch. Okay, so I am at the end of the row. I'm going to work my final double crochet here. Make sure you don't accidentally skip over it. And now we are going to bring in color C again. So just place the yarn on your hook and do that last pull through. And so now we are starting row 17. So for rows 17 and 18, we're going to work, do the repeat of row 5. And again, row 5 is just the chain 2, double crochet, and slip stitch across. It's these 2 rows that we did just before color B. So work a double crochet into the first, a slip stitch into the next, repeat it alternating all the way across the row. When you get to the end of the row, chain 2, turn your work, and then do the same thing all the way back. So just what you have been doing, double crochet, slip stitch across. Okay, so now we are bringing in color A. So go ahead and take color A, drape it over the hook, and do that last pull through. In this row, we are going to be creating the hole for our pocket. So if you're making the front panel, you're just going to follow along exactly with what I'm doing here. But if you are on the back panel, just go ahead and skip making this hole and just work 1 half double crochet into each stitch across the row. But if you're on the front panels at this point, you can go ahead and chain 1 and turn your work, and then you will be working for the size small here. I am working 7 half double crochet, and then we'll be making the space for our pocket, and this stitch count will change for all of the sizes, so make sure you check. Again, this is the size small, so I have 7 half double crochet, but for the medium you will be making 8, for the large you'll be making 10. So go ahead and double check that for your size in the written pattern. Okay, so I have 7 half double crochet, and now we are going to be making a chain and skipping over 18 stitches like I have here. So every single size will be skipping over 18. The only difference is how many half double crochet you'll be making on both ends of the hole. So you can see here, this is my back panel and there is no hole here. So if you are on the back panel, just work all the way across like normal, working a regular half double crochet row. But for the front panels here, we're going to be doing the same things for both the front panels. So check the stitch count for how many half double crochet you should make, and then now we will be chaining 18. So just yarn over and pull through 18 times. Make sure you're not pulling the chains too tightly, but you also don't want them to be loose or anything like that. So chain 18, and then you can count 18 stitches from the row below. And if it's easier, you can put a stitch marker into the other end. But just go ahead and chain 18 and count and skip over 18 stitches. And again, that's for all of the sizes. Each size will be a chain 18 like I'm doing here. And then you'll also will all be skipping over 18 stitches. Okay, so I've chained 18 and now I've skipped over 18 as well, and in that following stitch I'm just working a half double crochet. It might feel a little weird to make a half double crochet into that spot after making those chains. It might make your stitch look a little weird, so just make sure you don't accidentally skip it on that following row on the way back. And you can also hold it down, the yarn down with your finger as you work that first stitch. So we have 7 half double crochet, chain 18, skip 18, and 7 half double crochet. So depending on your size, say if you're making the extra small, it would be 6 half double crochet, chain 18, skip 18, 6 half double crochet. So just make sure you're checking that size. So this is what will eventually be the opening for our pocket. Okay, and then for row 20, you're just going to chain 1 and turn your work and work 1 half double crochet into each stitch across the row. When you get to the chain space, you can either work your half double crochet stitches into the actual chain, or you can work it just around the chain into the chain space. It doesn't really matter too much. And I wanted to point out here, this is the half double crochet that might look a little weird, that first one that we did. Don't confuse it for a chain. You should have 7 half double crochet here in the beginning. So you can see it kind of hangs over a little bit and you could get confused with the chains. So just make sure that you're doing the correct amount. Your stitch count will stay the same here as it has been. So I've got my 7 half double crochet, and to just make it easier, you could just continue working into the chains. That kind of helps keep the half double crochet stitches in place so that they are even across. And then if you work them into the chain space like I'm doing here, they might look a little spaced funny, and you'll have to stretch them out across the chain and kind of play with them for a little bit. But in the long run, I found that it didn't mess up anything. Once you work that half double crochet row on the way back, it blends in really well and kind of pulls the stitches to where they should be. So you can do either one, whichever you prefer. And then once you work those 18 half double crochet into the chain space, just continue along by working 1 half double crochet into each remaining stitch until you get to the end of the row. Okay, so now we are heading into row 21 here. When you get to the end, just chain 1 and turn your work. You can see that's what the pocket looks like. And now for the following row, you're just going to do the same thing, work 1 half double crochet into each stitch back across the row. So just the same as you have been, chain 1, 1 half double crochet all the way across. Okay, then when you get to the end, we're just going to place color C on our hook and now use that as the current working color. So we're just going to be doing another repeat again of the double crochet slip stitch. So go ahead and chain 2 and turn your work. And then in the first stitch, work a double crochet. And in the next stitch, work a slip stitch and repeat this all the way across. And we're only doing it for 1 row this time. So just work across to the end and then we will be switching back to color A. Okay, so now we're at the end of the row and we're just going to place color A back on our hook. Do that last pull through with color A. And now we are going to just be doing 2 rows of half double crochet stitches. So go ahead and chain 1 and turn your work, and then just work 1 half double crochet into the first stitch and into each stitch all the way across the row. So go ahead and do this all the way down and then chain 1, turn your work and work your way back as well. And then I will meet you at the end of that row. Okay, so now we're going to be bringing in color B. So go ahead and do that last pull through with color B. And now we are beginning row 25. So go ahead and chain 2 and turn your work. And for this row, we are going to be doing a X stitch row, but now we're going to be working those double crochets into the top of the stitch instead of into any spaces. So just like we did previously, except now we're working into the stitches. So 1 double crochet into the first stitch, and then you're going to skip over the next stitch and work a double crochet into the following. So we're just skipping over 1 and then go back and work a double crochet into the stitch that you just skipped. So yarn over, insert your hook into that skip stitch and complete the double crochet. And then just do this all the way across the row. So skip 1, work a double crochet, go back and work a double crochet into the stitch that you just skipped. Again, skip 1, work a double crochet, and then go back and work 1 in the skipped stitch. And just do this all the way across the row. Okay, and then don't forget to do that final double crochet into the last stitch. And now we are going to be bringing in our next color. So save that last yarn over and pull through for color C. So go ahead and bring in color C, place it on your hook and pull through. And we're just repeating row 5 now. So go ahead and chain 2 and turn your work. And then we will just be doing the same thing that we have been with the color C rows. So double crochet into the first stitch and slip stitch into the next stitch and repeat this alternating all the way across. Sorry about the blur on my screen. So double crochet into the first, slip stitch into the next, and repeat across. And we're only doing this for 1 row. So just work to the end of the row. Okay, and then when you get to the end of the row, do that last pull through with color A. So just go ahead and place it on your hook and pull through. And now we will not be switching colors anymore. This is going to be our last color change. So you can go ahead and make sure all of the other colors are fastened off and that your tails are tied together. Then just chain 1 and turn your work. And now you're going to just be working half double crochet stitches for the rest of the panel. So I'm making the size small. So this is row 27. And so rows 27 through 52 are just half double crochet stitches. So make sure you check the correct amount of rows for your size. Check the written pattern so you know how many rows to do for the size that you're making. But just go ahead, half double crochet across, chain one turn, half double crochet, repeat for the required amount of rows. So once you have your first front panel done, you're going to go back and do that same exact thing. So go back and make a second front panel, and then as well as a back panel. So just make sure you have all of your panels complete. They should all be the same length. And then now we have to make the sleeves. So for the sleeves, you start off the exact same way. You're just going to begin with the ribbing. So it's the same as before. Do your 10 foundation single crochet, or you can do the chain 11 and work the single crochet across the chain, and just do that for the amount of ribbing rows required for your size. So each size is going to be slightly different. For the size small, I'm going to be doing a total of 28 rows of ribbing. So again, the extra small would be 27, and they change depending on the size. So just double check that. But for the size small, I'm doing 28 rows. So go ahead and start your ribbing and work the correct amount of rows for your size, and then I will show you how to do the sleeves. They're just going to be slightly different in the very first row that we do of the main part of the sleeve. Okay, so I have my 28 rows of ribbing here, and now we're going to be doing the same thing as before by working our first row into the ends of the rows of the ribbing. The only difference is we're going to be working 2 single crochet per row instead of 1 like we had been for the front and back panels. So I'm going to show you how to do that. So here I am finishing up the ribbing. There's my last stitch of the row for that last final row of ribbing, and you just rotate your work, and in that very first space at the end of the row, work 2 single crochet, and then into the next spot work 2 single crochet. Then I also wanted to point out, because we're working 2 single crochet into the ends of the rows, it can kind of make it every other row look like it has a bit of a gap. So instead of just putting it under that one strand there, you want to put your hook a little bit lower down the row and work the 2 single crochet to help prevent that almost like a tiny little hole. You could do it under one if you wanted, and it's not going to mess with the pattern at all. But I just thought working it down slightly, so you can see I have that one strand and then those 2 strands below it. I like to stick my hook between those 2 strands, and it kind of closes up the space that is created by working 2 single crochet into the same spot. So you probably wouldn't have noticed it as much when we're doing the front and back panels, because you're only working 1 single crochet per end of each row. But when you do the 2 single crochet, it kind of widens out that space a little bit and kind of gives it like a funky little space. So just to prevent that, you can just put your hook a little bit lower down the row. But if you don't care, then it really doesn't matter. It doesn't affect the pattern at all, and you can just continue across. So just work 2 single crochet into the ends of every row until the end. Okay, and then when you are finished with that first row, you're gonna see that your piece looks really wavy and crazy and kind of all over the place and weird looking, but do not worry, it's supposed to look like that. It's just because we have doubled those rows. I promise you, once you get going in, it is going to flatten out, and it's gonna look perfect once it's all sewn up, and it gives us that nice, cute little balloon style sleeve. So after that row, the rest of the rows are exactly the same as the front and back panels. So I'm not going to repeat and show you guys all that same process again. You can go back and rewatch the front panel portion if you need a reminder, but you just continue on. So this is row 2 here, and we're just going to be doing the exact same thing of all of the color changes that we have on the front and back panels. So row 1, which is what we just did, all the way up until row 26 is exactly the same as the back panel and the front panel. So the only difference was that first row that we just completed. So after that, you can just go back and remind yourself the color changes if you're not following along with the written, or if you need a little bit of extra help or visual. And then once you complete all 26 rows, then you're going to switch back into color A and work some half double crochet rows as well, same as we did on the front panels and back panel, except we're just not making it as long. The sleeves do not need to be as long. We just have a small section here that are going to be half double crochet rows to finish it off. So for the size small, let's see, I am making rows 27 through 35 will be half double crochet rows. So 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 9 rows total of half double crochet at the end. So go ahead and rewatch the portion if you need to, or just continue on repeating the same thing, and then you're going to have to go back and make this twice since we need 2 sleeves, and I will meet you guys back here after that. So now we need to make our pockets, and you're going to be making 2 of these, and you can start off by working a foundation half double crochet, or you can go ahead and chain 19, work 1 half double crochet in the second chain from the hook and all the way across for a total of 18 half double crochet. But if not, you can do the foundation method, which is what I'm doing here. It's the same as a single crochet method that we did, except you yarn over first and then you insert your hook into the bottom of the stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 1 loop only, and then yarn over and pull through all 3, and that is a foundation half double crochet. And I do have slower videos on this if you need to check it out, so go ahead and make a total of 18. Okay, and then once you have 18 half double crochet, you can chain 1 and turn your work, and now you're just going to work 1 half double crochet into each stitch all the way back down the row for a total of 18. So our stitch count here is not going to change. And once you get to the end of the row, just chain 1 and turn, and you're just going to be repeating row 2 for a total of 16 rows. So we have 18 half double crochet for a total of 16 rows, and then you need to make this pocket twice. So you're going to want to fasten off when you get to the end here. But leave the tail long enough so that it can go around all 4 sides of the pocket. You'll be using it for sewing to the inside of your cardigan. So you can fasten off, leave a long tail, and then go ahead and make a second pocket. Okay, so once we have all of our panels made, now we have to start seaming them together. So you're going to take your back panel and place it out in front of you with the right side facing up. So you can find the right side of your panel by looking at row 1 here, and if you're looking at the right side of the single crochet stitches, then that is the right side of your panel. So you want to place it facing up, and then you're going to do the front panels and do the same thing. So the right side of the front panels is if you're looking at the front panel and that first row that we did and the main body, if you're looking at the front of the single crochet stitch, then that means that is the right side. And so you want to place those facing down. So we have the back panel right side up and the front panels right side down. And you can see the tail of yarn, one's going to be on the outer side and one is going to be on the inner side. And now we need to seam these to the back panel. So you can use whatever method that you prefer when you are joining your panels together. Personally, I like to use my hook and just slip stitch across, but if you prefer a needle, you can do that as well and do whatever choice, whatever method you like to do to join your pieces. Okay, so I'm going to show you how I do mine with the slip stitch. So I still have my right sides facing, and I'm just going to use the tail of yarn and the hook that I've been using to slip stitch across. So you want to put it into the very corner stitch of the back panel and then into the very corner stitch of the front panel. So the only thing you need to look out for here is to make sure that you're not skipping stitches or accidentally working 2 slip stitches into the same stitch. So just insert your hook and then put it through both panels and then pull through both panels and the loop on your hook as well. And you're just going to do this for each stitch all the way across. So I'm working into the 4th stitch here on both panels, and then yarning over and pulling through both panels and through the loop on your hook. Just make sure you're not tugging too tightly or skipping any stitches. Go ahead and do this on both sides. So you're going to want to do it on this front panel and then the other front panel as well. So now that we have the back panel and front panels seamed together, we need to do the same thing at the sleeves. So you're going to take your back and front panels and place them out in front of you with the seam facing up. And then you're going to go ahead and take your sleeve and place it flush up against the back and front panel. So you'll want the seam right here at the shoulder that we just did to be exactly perfect in the middle of your sleeve, so that the sleeve is joined on evenly with both the back panel and the front panel. So go ahead and take either one of the sleeves and place it along the panels, and then you will also want the right side of the sleeve facing down. That way all of our seams are on the correct side and all of the panels are facing the right direction when we are finished. So we have it laying out like this, and then I always recommend to get some stitch markers to hold your work in place. And then you'll want to count into the middle stitch or in between the 2 middle stitches of your sleeve because it's going to be an even number on the sleeve. So you'll just want to count in halfway, and then you can place a stitch marker in between those 2 stitches and into the seam. And then I also have one placed here on the front panel and on the back panel. And I've counted the amount of rows that I have on the front and back where the edges of the row of the sleeve end, so that it's completely even. So just make sure that your sleeve is evenly placed, and then we're going to do the same thing that we did before with the front and back panels, and you are going to seam them together. Again, you can use any method that you prefer here, but I like to do the slip stitch and just use my hook. And then this part is going to be slightly different because we only have stitches that we can work into on the actual sleeve, because now we're working into the ends of the rows of the back panel and side panel. So it might feel slightly different. You don't have an actual stitch to locate and put your hook in. You just have to try and evenly place it. You're just going to put your hook in the actual stitch of the sleeve and then put it directly across from that into the end of the row of either the front or back panel as you go. So just try and keep it as even as possible and just work your way across. When you get to the center seam, just remove your stitch marker and keep going and do this all the way to the end, and then go ahead and repeat the same thing on the other side as well. And then I'm also going to show you here how to seam the actual sleeve together and the side of the cardigan, because we still have to do that. So we seamed all the way across, and if you've run out of yarn, you can fasten off and attach the other sleeve, or you can go ahead and continue on so you have less ends to weave in. If you have enough yarn to keep sewing down the side of the cardigan or up the sleeve to the cuff, you can do that here as well. So I'll show you just how to keep going, but if not, you can bring in some new yarn and finish this side, or you can go ahead and attach your other sleeve before finishing the cuff to the armpit and the armpit to the bottom hem of the cardigan. But because I still have enough yarn from where I attached my sleeve, I'm just going to rotate my cardigan and keep going. So you can do the same thing as well. Either join here at the armpit. So this is directly at the underarm, right at the ends of the sleeve. I just folded everything together, and now I am going to work my way down the sleeve of the cardigan to join. So this is at the armpit, and I'm working down the sleeve to the cuff, and then I'll have to bring in more yarn and work from the underarm down to the hem, and then you're going to want to do this on both sides of your cardigan. And it's going to be the same thing as before. You're just going to be working through the ends of the rows here, so it might feel a little weird if you're not used to doing it this way, but just keep your panels even as you go. You want to make sure your rows are lined up and that the stripes are lined up so that you are keeping everything even. So I finished sewing down to the cuff of the sleeve, and now I'm going to attach some more yarn because I ran out there, and I am just going to seam down the side and then repeat on the other side. And then I will show you guys how to attach the pockets and add the trim. Okay, so now everything is seamed together and we need to add the pocket. So I have my cardigan facing wrong side out here because we're sewing the pockets to the inside of the cardigan. And you are just going to take the top of the pocket and place it right up to where we have our chain space, that chain 18 that we did, and those stitches that are worked into the chain 18, that's where we're going to be sewing the top of the pocket into. You want to make sure you don't catch this color C row, that gold row. Don't accidentally snag or catch that, or you'll sew your pocket closed. You do not want to work into that. You want to work into the right above the hole that we made. So that top row right there. And then we're just going to seam using our needle. We're going to just seam across and then down the side of the pocket, across the bottom, and back up the other side. So all 4 sides. And then as you're doing this, you want to make sure that you are not poking your needle through the front of your work. If you poke the needle through to the other side of the stitch, you'll be able to see the stitch and the tail of yarn from the front of the cardigan, so we don't want that. You want to just carefully pick up your stitches from the inside of the cardigan. So just be extra careful when you're working through the striped rows that don't match with the cream color, that you're only picking up the back side of the stitch. So just go ahead and use your favorite method to sew all 4 sides of the pocket to the cardigan, and then you're going to want to repeat this on the other side as well. Okay, so now I have all 4 sides of my pocket sewn on. This is what it looks like from the front, a nice, pretty seamless pocket from the outside of the cardigan. And just make sure you have it done on both sides. And now we just have to add the trim of the cardigan. So I have my cardigan facing right side out now. All the seams are on the inside, and we're just going to add the trim, working along the first front panel, along the back line, and then down the second front panel. So we're going to join in at the very bottom corner of the ribbing, and then we're going to work our way up the side just using half double crochet stitches. So you can join in to that very first stitch with a slip stitch, and then chain 1 and work 1 half double crochet into the same spot and into each of these 10 stitches on the ribbing. And then once you reach that main body, we'll be working into the edges of the rows. So the ends of the rows, same thing as before when we did the slip stitching, except now you're working half double crochet stitches. And then we're also going to be working directly over the tails of yarn so that you have less ends to weave in. So you want to make sure that all of those tails have a knot in it to keep it secure, and then when you reach that portion with working your half double crochet stitches, you can just place those tails over your hook and work your stitches directly over it. So I'm going to show you how to do that right here. So I'm coming up onto the end of one of these darker rows. So I've just picked up the tail of yarn that's already knotted with the gold color, and I've just brought it over so that it can kind of even be more hidden by being placed along against the stitches at the end of the row that are the same color. And now I'm just working directly over the tail of it so that it is hidden underneath my stitches. So you don't have to work your stitches over the tail where the color is matching. I could have just kept going and then started crocheting over it when I got to the actual knot part of it. So however you want to do it, however you think looks best. If you don't even want to crochet over the ends at all, you don't have to. You could just work around them and then weave in the ends after at the end. But I just found that the process this way makes the end weaving go a lot quicker. So I just like to work directly over them, and I'm going to do this all the way up the side and then work half double crochet stitches along the back neckline of the cardigan and down to the other side of the corner of the next front panel. So go ahead and do that, and then I will meet you back at the other end of the cardigan. Okay, so I've worked my way across, and I also wanted to point out that the stitch count here does not matter. You just want your stitches as even as possible. So don't worry too much about the stitch count. Just try not to do too many, because then your work will be all wavy. You'll want to make sure they're spaced out evenly. So when you get to the end here, just chain one, turn your work, and work 1 half double crochet stitch into each stitch all the way back across, but in the front loop only this time. So you can see I'm working through the loop that is closest to me instead of both loops. So just yarn over, insert your hook into the stitch, working through the front loop only, so the loop that's closest, and we've left that second loop unworked, and you're just going to do it just like that all the way back around to where you joined. So again, just one into each stitch, and in that first row that we did, just make sure you're watching your stitches as you go, that they are not too many of them. You'll get a wavy trim if you do too many in the same spot. So try and spread them out evenly as you go. So go ahead and work back across, and then that is the end of the crocheting for the cardigan. You can fasten off when you get to the other side, and then just weave in your ends or cut the tails of yarn to finish. I hope you guys enjoyed this pattern. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video tutorial.